An old bird gets new life and creates a viral moment, why a Black Hawk helicopter captured the nation's attention. Plus, it's the end of an era as the Marines bid farewell to a battle-tested platform. And a long-lost diary sheds new light on little-known history about the Day of Days. Hello everyone, and welcome to Weapons and Warfare, a show made for anyone who wants to know more about our national defense. Whether you served, are serving, or have never served, we want to give you the ability to have an informed conversation about what's happening with America's military. For Straight Arrow News, I'm your host, Ryan Robertson, and we start this week with a hot topic in defense circles, the Golden Dome. It's an ambitious initiative, and that's why it's the subject of this week's debrief.
Thank you for being here in the Oval Office as we make a historic announcement about the Golden Dome Missile Defense Shield. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland.
Just 1 week into his second term, President Donald Trump announced plans for a Golden Dome missile defense system, building off the Reagan-era Star Wars initiative and Israel's vaunted Iron Dome. The president's plan, should it come to fruition, would be the largest and most expensive missile defense system ever built. The goal is straightforward: protect America from all missile attacks. To this point, the plan is largely theoretical, but the wheels are starting to turn in the defense industry. In fact, at AUSA 2025, AeroVironment and Sierra Nevada Corporation announced a partnership to build the framework for a missile defense system at Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota.
This isn't a future threat, this is a today threat. And a today threat needs today, ready now solutions and capabilities, which is why it's a natural fit for S&C and AV to come together to figure out what makes sense in the near term with some both kinetic and non-kinetic solutions.
John Piet, S&C's Executive VP for ISR, Intel, and Aviation, says the intention of the partnership is to create a blueprint for safeguarding not only this particular base, but other bases and critical infrastructure from a wide array of airborne threats. It's a job AV's president and CEO, Wahib Nawabi, says they can get started on right away because the equipment already exists.
We're producing these things. These are not prototypes. These are systems that have already been deployed in certain fashion, separately or independently or sometimes together. And both companies are actually producing them today in our factories, and we have the production capacity to deliver these things now.
Another unique aspect of the venture is both parties are jumping in without any guarantee of landing a DoD contract for the initiative.
This is the proactive way that we have to address the nation's needs today, and we can't always wait for a contract. Which is important. Sometimes we got to get ahead of it, and that's our approach to doing business together.
We know the customer wants us to be agile, wants us to be fast, and you don't do that unless you invest early. And every weapon system and every effector and sensor you see on this platform, we've done that. Particularly for our direct-to-energy, our counter-UAS RF, and our kinetic interceptor for next-generation counter-UAS missile. Every one of them we invested early, including the manufacturing base, so we'll be ready when the nation needed it.
A day before meeting with the press at AUSA, AV announced much of the work to develop their system will happen at Grand Sky, the country's first commercial UAS business and aviation park that sits within the confines of Grand Forks Air Force Base. A key element of the plan is to deliver a cost-effective means for protecting American assets, meaning multi-million-dollar missiles won't be used against smaller, cheaper systems.
Traditional systems are going after those high-value threats with your high-value effectors, and that doesn't work against a $1,000 drone. What we're doing is deploying a system that leverages the point defense, expensive assets to take out those expensive threats, and then a distributed architecture that actually allows you to take out the lower dollar threats and even the high dollar threats further out before they get to becoming a threat to the critical asset.
According to Nawabi, one element the group believes will help in landing a piece of the Golden Dome pie is their approach to open architecture.
We can say for this site, at the level of criticality and the threat level, we can deploy the following suite of solution set. not just to our two companies, but anyone else's products are welcomed as well. And they're also, the other feature of this is that because they're modular and interoperable, we will be able to actually increase capability over the life of these systems and installations.
So what's next? If all goes according to plan, the group says they'll expand the system to include Camp Grafton and Minot Air Force Base in northeastern and north-central North Dakota. And one quick postscript: after putting that story together, AeroVironment learned that they were chosen to supply the U.S. Army with its next-generation counter-UAS missile. Plus, they've snagged a hefty $95.9 million contract for the Army's Long-Range Kinetic Interceptor program. As part of this program, AV will be rolling out their Freedom Eagle 1 kinetic counter-UAS missile.
It's time to break up with mainstream media and try something new.
At Straight Arrow News, we're bringing back trustworthy journalism.
Bringing you news, not noise.
Bringing you facts, not fluff.
Bringing you clarity, not chaos.
We are
Straight Arrow News, the news you've been looking for.
For unbiased, straight facts, visit san.com.
All right, we are joined now by senior producer and Air Force veteran Brett Baker for some headlines you may have missed. Brett, we've been on the road so much lately, it's kind of nice to just get back to a normal headline segment.
Truly, as much as I enjoy the travel, it's nice to kind of get back into that home routine, if not for a long stretch, at least a little bit.
Absolutely. And, you know, you get to see your cat, I get to see my kids, it's all good, right? So
It's all good.
Speaking of being on the road, every year there's something that captures the attention of the AUSA crowd, and this year's event was no exception.
They took my job!
They took your job!
Sorry, Randy Marsh, meet the U-Hawk. The good people at Sikorsky, that's a division of a Lockheed Martin company, or is a division of Lockheed Martin, rather. So anyway, Sikorsky is experiencing a bit of a viral moment after introducing a repurposed 1992 UH-60L Blackhawk helicopter into the S-70 UAS U-Hawk. No pilot, hey, that's no problem. It's now a versatile, autonomous, uncrewed aerial system. Think of it as a drone that goes to 11.
What we have done is we have taken that aircraft, kind of given it a new life by installing our Matrix autonomy stack on it. And then we've also modified the aircraft, turning it into a true UAS by removing the cockpit and the crew stations from the aircraft. Now, when we did that, that enabled us to put in the clamshell doors and the ramp that you see behind you. So what this does is this enables the maneuver commander to have a increased payload capacity and also gives them additional flexibility in accomplishing their mission.
Bentley says the U-Hawk can carry 7,000 pounds internally, or you can throw a hook on it, and it can lift up to 8,000 pounds externally while carrying an additional 2,000 pounds on board. Brett, plenty of oohs and ahs from the crowd when the U-Hawk showed what it can do.
You know, I think just the size of it, you know, people think, oh, drone, and they think smaller, compact, agile. Putting an autonomous system on a craft this big that has such a storied history within the military, I think is definitely worthy of those oohs and ahs. And I think it's a really great innovation. You know, like Air Force Secretary of the Air Force Sherman talked about innovating and innovating. Right. And this is like one of those things like, okay, let's take a platform we have and let's take the autonomous intelligence that we have and put it in a package that makes that usable again. So I think, yeah, that was definitely where some of the oohs and ahs.
Absolutely. And from a, you know, a programming standpoint, the AI agent, whatever, you know, whether it's FSIs or you know, AVs or Shield AI, like whoever is flying, whatever computer agent is flying the vehicle or the thing, it doesn't really care how big it is. You know, it doesn't care if it's, you know, a small FPV-7 like from Red Cat, or if it's this giant, you know, U-Hawk. The pilot, AI pilot itself doesn't really care how big or how small it is. But to see the level of trust that industry and military leaders are now putting into the technology to control these larger things. I know there's a lot of people like, oh, it's Skynet. It's not. So I just, to your point, it's really cool, really interesting, and a great repurpose of some older technology. It's the end of an era. The assault amphibious vehicle was officially decommissioned during a sundown ceremony at Camp Pendleton, California on September 26th. The ceremony honored both the vehicle's 53 years of service to the Marine Corps and the Marines and sailors who served with it, while marking the transition to the Corps' next amphibious platform, the Amphibious Combat Vehicle, which we've profiled here. Brett, AAVs were used by Marines in just about every deployment after Vietnam. So like Somalia, Grenada, Iraq, definitely got some use out of the platforms.
For sure. It's one of those iconic vehicles that the engineers and the builders and the guys who had the vision to put this thing together did such a good job that it became such a trusted piece of whatever the Marines were going to go off doing. It is the end of an era, but I think it's a real tribute to those engineers and then the folks who kept it running all these years. You just marvel sometimes at the rate these guys hit things out of the park. Like with the B-52, it's going to be flying for 100 years. That's crazy to think about. That the AAV lasted, as long as it has, is a true tribute to those folks who are behind the initial project.
You're right, absolutely. And as good as the AAV is, the next amphibious combat vehicle that the Marines are going to be getting promises to be that much better. So who knows? Maybe it'll last for 150 years. Probably not, but we'll see. And finally, a really remarkable story out of China about that country's role in the success of D-Day. It's a long-forgotten diary which was recently found in a Hong Kong tenement block that was scheduled for demo. The diary contains the writings of Lam Pingyu, a Chinese officer who crossed the world with several comrades in arms from China to train and serve with Allied forces in Europe. So on June 6, 1944, the then 32-year-old Lam watched the landings in Normandy, France, unfold from aboard the battleship HMS Ramillies.
3 torpedoes were fired at us. We managed to dodge them, and we were at the moment turning around to adjust our firing position. The 3 torpedoes narrowly missed the ship on both sides, which was exceptionally fortunate. If that torpedo had hit the ship, I wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't exist.
That was Lam's daughter, Sao Ying Lam, who only learned of the diary's existence when a friend saw it on display at a museum with other pieces of China's naval history. More than 20 Chinese naval officers, including her father, were part of a group sent for training in the UK, an event he meticulously documented in his diary. Brett, the thing that really just kind of sticks out to me from this story is just how much is different now. I mean, China played a sizable role, or a role, in helping the Allies topple the Axis powers in World War II, and now it looks like former allies are actually positioning for potentially World War III.
Right. Well, I think for me, the thing that sticks out is, as much as we think and as much history has been written about D-Day and World War II, there's still stories that have yet to be told. This guy was part of a really remarkable journey and lived to tell the tale. And fortunately, that tale was recovered. But I just have to wonder how many more stories are there out there like this that are just so remarkable that we have yet to learn about. But yes, it is interesting also, though, to see a different place in time where, China was on the side of the Allies and going against the axis of evil and hoping to root out that fascism. So yeah, it's a remarkable story all the way around, and especially for that young lady who learned so much about her dad that she probably never would have known otherwise.
Sure. Yeah, true. You bet, as I always say sometimes. All right. Brett, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. As always, we'll see you again next week.
Absolutely.
Есть что? Тут на раб. In the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, one of the most effective ways of stopping the Russians is creating minefields at the front lines. And one of the best ways to do that is with unmanned ground vehicles. And here to talk a little bit more about those is Ruslan with Ratel Robotics. You have these Ratel mine-laying unmanned ground vehicles behind us here. Kind of talk a little bit about what these systems can do and how effective they are.
So these small ones was designed specially in 2023 at the kamikaze drones. So we could afford like a distant enemy object destruction, heavy machine gun positions, shelters, cars, logistical missions, bridges, etc., etc. Then our MOD contacted us and told us like, hey guys, we need to make, it is not cheap like 2K. You need to expand the possibility of mine laying, etc., etc. So we designed this mine layer add-on, which is on the top of the kamikaze drone, and the robot became available to remotely land 2 anti-tank mines, and also he could be used at the detonator, so he could raise the radio horizon from robot to land mine with a radio detonator and explode the mine remotely. Then we became like at the end of the 2023, we had this intensified FPV impact on our combat field. So this stuff became not so often used. Like we are using less frequently small drones, but we developed our other product line, the logistical UGVs. They are specially designed to replace the human personnel on the trucks at the battlefront. So this one is called Ratel M. This is medium class logistical case evac UGV. It is specially designed to bring up to 450 kilos to a distance up to 40 kilometers. It is remotely operated, fully electrically driven. Yes, it can be controlled by any possible radio and also via internet. So we had like 2 teams who are operating, one from like 20 kilometers from the battlefront and the other one with the possibility to raise the radio horizon in terms our like internet terminal has been damaged or something like that. And almost 25 brigades are using this stuff at this day. So we are evolving, we are modifying our drones, we are trying to make them cheap and reliable enough to replace like people at the battlefront, so our robots can save human lives.
And what kind of mission sets? I mean, obviously logistics, probably, evacuations, dropping off materials. Can you mount like rocket launchers and guns and stuff like that on top of it too?
So we drew our legs from the combat unit. Like our core team is former veterans, some of us are still in service. And we were designing this stuff as for us, and we are still not only manufacturing but using it at the battlefront as well. So this truck can supply artillery teams, mortar teams, heavy bomber teams, FPV teams, etc., etc. If we are talking about the Zero line, we need to use smaller UGVs with a lower profile, because this truck is like visible. We are covering them with nets, with thermal sheltering materials, etc., etc. But still, the price of this, whatever it is, drone can be like zeroed by one FPV optical wire. It has to be cheap. Like this robot here in Ukraine costs from 20 to 25 grand, considering what materials, what completion, etc., etc. If we look into a truck with quality done UGV jammer, it costs even more. But replacing it with this stuff, we do not involve human personnel at the battlefront. We are delivering supply, ammunition, drones, gas, diesel, generators, etc., whatever you need. We are providing logistics to a position and evacuation from a position in case we need.
Absolutely. Russell, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, folks, for Comms Check this week, we were talking to a company that is trying to position itself as the prime contractor for all things autonomous and AI agents. So here to talk a little bit more about that is Matt George with Merlin Labs. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for joining. I know the schedule is incredibly busy during AFA.
Incredibly busy, but you guys have been incredibly busy. You announced that you're going public. You announced a couple of new partnerships with some other, major manufacturers. Kind of walk me through all the things you guys have been doing.
It's definitely been a busy year. We announced a couple weeks ago that we're going public at the start of next year, and today we announced a major new partnership with GE Aerospace, in addition to some other partnerships that we've announced over the past couple months, in order to bring AI and autonomy off of the pitch deck and actually out into real operational service for the customers who very much need it.
And for GE, you're talking about, bringing autonomy into some of the tanker aircraft, correct?
GE has thousands of aircraft that use their FMS as well as their digital backbone. And GE is the trusted provider for everything from freight companies all the way up to the KC-46, the KC-135, and a bunch of next generation tactical aircraft. So by teaming with GE, what we're able to do is take everything that we're doing, combine it with a pedigree that they've been working on for decades, and actually bring a real capability out to customers in weeks and months and not years.
Absolutely. The other partnership that was announced a few weeks ago was with Northrop Grumman, obviously more of a defense contractor, but the technology that Merlin Labs is making is not specifically just for defense. It can be a dual use. I mean, commercial aviation can make use of this.
We're building a pilot, just not a human one. So just like a pilot can grow up in the military and then transition out into the civil world, we're building something that is agnostic of what type of airplane it is. Clearly, we have to go specialize that based off of a tanker or a commercial aircraft, but we're developing something that is truly agnostic, which allows us a lot of flexibility to work with folks like Northrop, to work with folks like GE, and to deliver those solutions to customers to actually get their airplanes flying with AI.
All right, so let's break it down to the brass tacks. If I'm sitting at home on my couch, I'm wondering, when is my, United flight going to be flown by an AI agent? Crystal ball, Matt. What do you think?
20, 30 years. I think it's going to be a really long time before you're seeing totally uncrewed aircraft, especially for civil air transport. And I include some small aircraft in that. I think the market really is going to be where we're focusing, which is on the military and cargo side. But you'll see some stuff from us in the coming months about how we're going to bring some of the AI and autonomy into those civil flight decks in a way that potentially improves safety, particularly given some of the accidents we've seen over the past year, where AI and autonomy can really augment human pilots to make commercial aviation much safer.
Absolutely. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All opinions expressed in this segment are solely the opinions of the contributors.
All right, folks, for my wrap this week, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about personal accountability and what I thought was a good example of it that happened recently. Graham Plattner is a United States Marine Corps veteran running for the Democratic Senate nomination in Maine. He's not a professional politician. He's an oyster farmer, and he's making waves with his plain-spoken, down-to-earth ideas for helping people in Maine.
When I tell people around here that I'm running for Senate, sometimes the initial reaction is, what the but
As is often the case whenever someone reaches a certain level of stardom, social media did a deep dive on Plattner and found some concerning posts and evidence of a very suspect tattoo, a skull and crossbones on his chest that has been associated with German Nazis. Not a great look. He explained in recent interviews and in a video on his own social media that the former machine gunner got the ink overseas during his third deployment in the global war on terror. He admits he was drunk at the time and says he just picked something off a wall that he thought looked scary. Regardless of his politics or my level of belief in that story, I thought Plattner did the right thing after finding out the body art he'd worn for almost 2 decades was connected to the Nazi regime. He admitted he made a mistake, he admitted the tattoo was wrong, and he allegedly covered it up with something else. A Celtic knot that he says better reflects who he really is as a person. He did not run from the cameras. He owned up to his mistakes, and it would be nice if that's where the story ended. But it's not. Apparently, after some more deep diving on his social media, CNN discovered evidence Plattner knew for years that his tattoo was tied to Nazis. Look, I get people make mistakes, dumb mistakes, but personal accountability is constant. It doesn't start and stop based on a person's current social or political stances or aspirations. The moment Plotner learned about the true nature of his tattoo just so happens to be the exact same moment he should have held himself to account. The world would be better if more of us did just that. And that's going to do it for us this week on Weapons and Warfare. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to all the Straight Arrow News social media feeds if you have not already. And download the Straight Arrow News app today. We are working on a lot of great content for the show, and the best way to make sure you stay up to date on all of it is downloading the app right now. In the meantime, for senior producer Brett Baker, video editor Brian Spencer, and motion artist Dakota Patillo, I'm Ryan Robertson with Straight Arrow News, signing off.